They never believed in you. They watched you stumble, watched you hesitate, and they fed on your uncertainty like vultures circling a wounded animal. Every glance, every whispered word behind closed doors carried the same expectation, that you would fold, that you would break under the weight of your own fear. They saw the doubt in your eyes and mistook it for weakness. They watched your hands tremble, your breath catch in your throat, and they convinced themselves that you were afraid, that you would never rise, that you were meant to stay exactly where you were, small, silent, insignificant. But they didn't understand you. They didn't see what was happening beneath the surface. Because fear wasn't your end, it was your beginning. Fear has never been the enemy. It was never the force holding you back. It was the fire that was meant to set you free. The world wanted you to believe that fear was a cage, a chain around your ankles keeping you in place. But in reality, it was the weight that would make you stronger, the test that would force you to sharpen your mind, your body, your will. Every great warrior, every legend who ever walked this earth knew one thing: fear is fuel. It is the spark before the wildfire, and the moment you stop running from it is the moment you become unstoppable. They thought they had you figured out. They thought the hesitation in your voice, the momentary flicker of doubt in your eyes, meant that you weren't built for this. They counted you out before you had even started. They told themselves that you would always be afraid, that you would never step forward, never fight back, never become the person you were meant to be. But they were wrong, because while they whispered, while they laughed, while they looked down on you from their self-built towers of false confidence, something inside you was shifting. A storm was forming. A realization was taking root. Fear was not something to escape. It was something to master. And now, they don't see what's coming. They don't realize that the fear they thought would break you has only sharpened you. The hesitation they mistook for weakness was nothing more than the silence before the storm. They thought you were afraid. But what they don't understand is that fear is the very thing that will push you forward. Fear is what will drive you to rise. And when you do, when you step into the fire they were so sure would consume you, you won't just walk through it, you will become it. Fear isn't just an emotion, it's a prison. A carefully constructed cage built not from iron or steel, but from whispers, doubts, and the suffocating weight of hesitation. It wraps around you, tightening its grip with every thought that tells you to stop, to shrink, to stay exactly where you are. Fear is the voice that speaks before you even try, convincing you that failure is inevitable, that the risk isn't worth it, that stepping forward will only lead to pain. It makes you small, it keeps you obedient, it forces you into submission, into a life that is quieter, safer, less dangerous. But deep down you know the truth. There is nothing safe about staying in the shadows. They don't tell you that, do they? They don't tell you that the real danger isn't in taking the leap, but in staying where you are, letting fear dictate your every move until there's nothing left of you but a shell of what you could have been. Fear is the great manipulator. It whispers in your ear, disguising itself as logic, as caution, as reason. It makes you believe that standing still is the right choice, when, in reality, it's the slowest kind of death. The death of potential, the death of greatness. But what if I told you that fear was never the enemy? What if I told you that fear was your weapon? That the very thing holding you back is the key to setting you free? You see, fear was never meant to stop you. It was meant to wake you up. It was meant to ignite something inside you that no comfort, no easy path, no quiet existence ever could. Fear sharpens the senses. It heightens awareness. It reminds you that you are alive. The greatest warriors, the most unstoppable forces in history, did not move without fear. They moved because of it. They knew something that most people will never understand, that fear is energy, and energy can be transformed. The question isn't whether you feel fear. The question is, what will you do with it? You have two choices. You can let fear keep you caged, let it whisper the same tired lies in your ear until you've convinced yourself that you were never meant to rise. Or you can take that fear, grip it in your hands, and use it as a weapon. Let it propel you forward instead of dragging you down. Let it remind you that you are stepping into something greater, something unknown, something that demands more of you than the life you've been living. Because the truth is, fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means go. It means you are on the edge of something that matters, something real, something life-changing. They thought fear would keep you down. They thought it would be the thing that broke you. But they forgot one thing. You were never meant to be controlled. You know this feeling. You've lived it. The weight of hesitation pressing against your chest. The silent war raging in your mind. The voice that tells you to stop right before you take the step that could change everything. It's always there, lurking in the shadows of your thoughts, whispering, what if you fail? It happens in the moments that matter most. When opportunity knocks, but your hands won't reach for the door. When the words are at the edge of your tongue, but you swallow them back. When you stand at the threshold of something greater, something unknown, something that could redefine your life, and yet you hesitate. You tell yourself it's just not the right time, that you're not ready, that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't meant for you after all. You justify the inaction, numb yourself to the regret, distract yourself from the ache of knowing that once again, you let fear dictate your fate. So, and the worst part, no one even noticed. No one knew about the war inside you. No one saw how close you came to stepping forward before you turned back. But you know. You remember the moments you let slip away, the chances you didn't take, the risks you avoided, not because you weren't capable, but because you were afraid. Afraid of what? Failure? Judgment? The possibility that stepping into the unknown might cost you something? And so, you stood still. You chose safety over growth. You convinced yourself that standing in place was better than falling. But what you didn't realize in that moment is that hesitation, paralyzing, suffocating hesitation, is its own form of failure. It is the slow decay of potential, the silent killer of dreams, the invisible force that turns ambition into regret. You've made mistakes because of it. You've let doubt pull the strings of your life, dictating your choices, shaping your reality, suffocating your instincts. And every time you let it win, a piece of you faded. A part of you, the part that wanted more, the part that knew you were meant for something greater, died a little. But let me tell you something. Doubt is a liar. The voice in your head that tells you to stop, that's not you. That's the echo of fear, the residue of past failures, the conditioning of a world that thrives on people staying small. And you've been feeding it. Every time you hesitate, every time you let an opportunity pass, you make that voice stronger. But here's the truth they never told you. Doubt has no power unless you give it power. Fear has no control unless you surrender control. The hesitation, the second guessing, the overthinking, none of it has to own you, and it won't. Not anymore, because today, you take back the moments you lost. Today, you make a choice. The kind of choice that doesn't just change your life, but rewrites your destiny. No more turning back. No more standing at the edge of greatness and retreating. No more regrets over what could have been. From this moment forward, when fear tells you to stop, you move faster. When doubt tells you to hesitate, you step forward with even more force. When your mind tells you to shrink, you expand. Because hesitation is not an option. Not for you. Not anymore. No more. No more hesitation. No more backing down. No more living as a prisoner to the fear that has ruled your mind for too long. You've seen what fear does. It steals. It delays. It suffocates. It convinces you to accept a life that is smaller than the one you were meant to live. But today, that ends. This is where you fight. This is where the war begins. Not out there, not in the opinions of others, not in the expectations forced upon you, but inside you. The battlefield is your mind, and the enemy isn't the world. It's the version of you that hesitates, that doubts, that makes excuses. It's the voice that tells you to wait when you should be running forward. The voice that convinces you to stay in the shadows when you were born to stand in the light. And now, you have a choice. You can stay where you are, drowning in the same cycles of fear, feeding the same doubts, watching opportunity slip through your fingers like sand. Or you can burn the hesitation to the ground. Fear is no longer your master, it's your fuel. The same fear that used to hold you back is now the fire that drives you forward. The same uncertainty that made you pause, it's now the very reason you move without looking back. You don't run from fear anymore, you run with it. You take it in, reshape it, turn it into power. This is the moment that separates those who wish from those who do. So choose. Let the world see you step forward when they thought you'd retreat. Let them hear your voice when they expected silence. Let them witness the fire inside you rage into something unstoppable. Because this is the turning point. You're not afraid anymore. You're ready for war. Every scar you carry tells a story. A story of survival, of battles fought in silence, of nights spent wrestling with the weight of your own thoughts. They tried to tell you that pain was a punishment, that suffering was proof of weakness. But they were wrong. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your forge. The fire of struggle, the weight of failure, the wounds left behind by betrayal and loss. These are not signs of your downfall. They are the marks of your becoming. Every great warrior, every legend who has ever risen from the ashes of their former self has walked through fire, not because they wanted to, but because they had no other choice. The weak avoid pain. The strong are built by it. Pain doesn't destroy you, it creates you. It carves away the illusions, burns away the lies, and leaves only the raw, unshakable truth. You are still here. You have bled. You have fallen. You have questioned if you had the strength to rise again. And yet here you are, still breathing, still standing, still fighting. They told you to fear pain. They told you to avoid discomfort, to retreat when things became difficult. But comfort never created warriors. Ease never forged champions. It is only through the fire of struggle that something unbreakable is born. Look at the greatest warriors in history. None of them were fearless. They simply refused to let fear dictate their fate. The truth is, the pain you have endured has been shaping you all along. Every heartbreak, every failure, every moment when you thought you had nothing left, those were the moments that made you. Those were the moments when something inside you refused to break, when your spirit hardened, when you became something stronger than you ever thought possible. And now you do not run from pain. Now you embrace it. Now you let it sharpen you, mold you, turn you into something so powerful that nothing can break you again. The world sees pain as something to be avoided. You see it as fuel. Because the greatest warriors are not those who never feel fear. They are not those who never experience pain. They are the ones who walk through the fire and do not stop. The ones who take their wounds and turn them into armor. The ones who have suffered, who have lost, who have known what it means to be broken, and still they rise. And now, so do you. The real war was never out there, not in the opinions of others, not in the obstacles placed in your path, not in the circumstances that tried to break you. The battlefield has always been inside you. You have been fighting an invisible war for as long as you can remember. A war against the voices in your mind telling you that you are not enough, that you will never make it, that you were never meant to be great. A war against hesitation, against the doubts that creep in when you are on the edge of something greater, against the regret that haunts you every time you let fear win. Fear, doubt, regret. The unholy trinity that has held you captive for too long. Fear tells you to stop before you even begin. It convinces you that danger is around every corner, that failure is inevitable, that stepping forward will only bring pain. Doubt whispers that you don't have what it takes, that you are not strong enough, not smart enough, not capable enough. It feeds on hesitation, on every moment you've second-guessed yourself, on every time you let an opportunity slip away. Regret is the ghost of all the chances you didn't take. The weight of every moment you backed down when you should have fought. It lingers in the silence, reminding you of what could have been if only you had been brave enough to move forward. And right now, you are standing in the middle of this war. But here's the truth they don't tell you. There is no escaping it. The only way out is through. You can try to run, but doubt will chase you. You can try to ignore it, but fear will find its way back in. You can try to silence regret, but it will speak louder every time you hesitate again. The war inside you will not end until you decide to end it. This is the moment where you make your choice. You can keep letting fear, doubt, and regret dictate your life. You can keep believing the lies that tell you to stay small, to stay silent, to stay hidden, or you can turn and fight. You can look fear in the eye and step forward anyway. You can silence doubt by proving it wrong. You can erase regret by taking action now, before another moment slips away. Because the battle was never about whether you feel fear or doubt. It was always about whether you let it control you. And today you take control. Today you win the war within. Fear has lied to you your entire life. It has convinced you that it is a wall, a blockade, a force meant to keep you from moving forward. But what if fear was never meant to stop you? What if fear was actually a signal, not a stop sign? Every time fear rises in your chest, every time doubt grips your mind, every time hesitation whispers in your ear, what if that was not a warning to back away, but a call to step forward? What if fear was an invitation? Think about it. The greatest moments of your life, the ones that changed everything, were always preceded by fear. That first step into the unknown, that moment when you stood on the edge of something bigger than yourself, fear was always there, but was it there to stop you, or was it there to test you? Most people see fear and retreat. They assume that discomfort means danger, that hesitation means failure, that uncertainty means they are on the wrong path. But the truth is, fear is often the sign that you are standing exactly where you need to be, because fear only shows up when something matters. You don't feel fear over meaningless things. You don't feel fear over things that don't challenge you, don't push you, don't stretch you beyond who you were yesterday. The things you are most afraid of, they are the very things that hold the key to your freedom. What if, instead of running from fear, you learn to follow it? What if, instead of treating fear as the enemy, you learn to see it as your compass? Right now, your mind is wired to see fear as a threat, a signal to stop, to hesitate, to turn back. But the truth is, fear is only a pattern. A neurological loop that is played over and over again in your mind, shaping your reality, dictating your choices. And like any pattern, it can be rewired. You must train your mind to recognize fear not as a sign of danger, but as a sign of growth. Because every great breakthrough lives on the other side of fear. Every dream you've ever had, every version of yourself that you are striving to become, every opportunity that could shift your entire life, fear stands between you and it. So what will you do? You could keep living the way you always have, letting fear dictate what's possible for you, letting it control your choices, your voice, your future. Or you could rewire everything. You could start seeing fear for what it really is, a test of your willingness to rise. From now on, when fear appears, you do not retreat. You do not pause. You do not shrink. You step forward, because you now understand something that most will never grasp. Fear is not the enemy. It is the doorway, and the only way to a greater life is through it. Enough. The time has come to break free, not from the world, not from others, but from yourself. The version of you that has played small for too long. The version of you that has obeyed the limits placed upon you. The version of you that hesitated when it mattered most, that stayed silent when your voice should have roared. This is your rebellion, not against people, not against the past, but against the chains that have held you captive. The chains of self-doubt, the chains of hesitation, the chains of a mind conditioned to believe that fear is stronger than will, that limits are real, that greatness belongs to someone else. The step where you once hesitated. Do the thing that once made your heart pound, your hands shake, your breath catch in your throat. Stand in the spaces where you once felt too small, too unworthy, too afraid to claim your place. Take back the moments fear stole from you. The opportunities, the decisions, the life that was meant to be yours before you let hesitation take it away. Speak where you once stayed silent. Say the words you were too afraid to voice. Express the truth you swallowed down to make others comfortable. Stand in your own power, unapologetic, unafraid, knowing that your voice, your presence, deserves to be heard. Because here's the truth. They told you fear was the enemy. They told you to avoid it, to obey it, to shrink in its presence. They trained you to believe that discomfort meant danger, that doubt meant unworthiness, that struggle meant you weren't capable. They convinced you that fear was something to run from, when in reality, fear is the very thing that was meant to set you free. Every person who has ever done something great has stood in the fire of fear and refused to bow. They didn't wait for the fear to disappear. They didn't wait for permission. They acted in spite of it. And now, so do you. Because this is your turning point. This is the moment when you become the version of yourself that fear tried to keep buried. The moment when hesitation loses its grip, when doubt fades into irrelevance, when fear ceases to control you, not because it no longer exists, but because it no longer owns you. Today you break the chains. Today you rise, not as the person you were yesterday, but as the person you were always meant to be. The world only sees the victory, the applause, the recognition, the moment when everything comes together. But what they don't see, what they never see, is the battle that came before it. The greatest victories are won in the darkness, in the silence of early mornings, in the loneliness of relentless effort, in the moments when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when doubt is your only companion. This is where strength is forged, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. You don't need validation. You don't need someone to tell you that you are ready, that you are capable, that you are destined for more. You don't need approval, a pat on the back, or a sign from the universe. Because the truth is, if you wait for permission, you will wait forever. And you are done waiting. The only thing you need is one step forward, and then another. Not a perfect plan, not absolute certainty. Just movement, just action, just the willingness to step into the unknown, to walk into the places that terrify you, to move forward even when the ground beneath you feels unstable. Because here's the truth. The unknown is where everything you've ever wanted lives. Comfort zones are cages. Familiarity is a slow death. The life you desire, the person you are meant to become, the power you have barely begun to tap into, it all exists just beyond the threshold of your fear. You spent too much time hesitating, analyzing, questioning whether or not you should take the leap, but deep down you already know the answer. You must step forward. Not because it's easy, not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. This is the moment when you stop playing by the rules fear gave you. This is the moment when you stop asking whether or not you are ready and start acting like you already are. The unknown will always be uncertain. It will always be unpredictable. It will always feel like a risk. But what's even riskier? Staying exactly where you are. So take the step, walk into the darkness, move toward the unknown, not because you have all the answers, but because staying still is no longer an option. Because the ones who change their lives, the ones who rewrite their stories, the ones who become something unshakable, they don't wait for certainty. They move anyway. You're afraid to fail? Good. That means you're stepping outside the lines. That means you're playing in an arena where comfort is no longer an option. That means you are doing something that matters. Most people never feel real fear, not because they are fearless, but because they never push themselves far enough to risk failure. They stay in their safe little worlds where they never take chances, never put themselves on the line, never chase something so big that it could break them. But you're different. You feel the fear because you're playing the right game. If you never fail, it means you never tried hard enough. It means you stayed within the boundaries of what was easy, what was predictable, what was guaranteed to work. But life doesn't reward safety. It doesn't celebrate those who avoided risks. It rewards those who fall, learn, and rise again. Because failure isn't an ending, it's a teacher. It's not proof that you aren't capable. It's proof that you had the courage to try. Every mistake, every misstep, every moment that didn't go as planned is a lesson. A tool sharpening you, preparing you, shaping you into someone who cannot be broken. The world has conditioned you to fear failure as if it's something to be ashamed of, as if failing means you aren't good enough, as if making mistakes is a sign of weakness. But that is a lie. Failure is not weakness. It is proof of progress. Every great leader, every champion, every legend who has ever existed has failed more times than most people have even tried. The difference? They didn't let failure define them. They used it. They studied it. They let it shape them into something more. You think success is built on winning? No. It's built on failing over and over again until the losses turn into victories. You want to win? Then embrace failure. Learn to see it as a tool, as a guide, as fuel that pushes you forward rather than something that holds you back. Because failure is never the problem. The problem is what you do after. Most people quit. They take failure as a sign that they should stop, that they weren't meant for something greater. They let it destroy them. But you are not most people. You study the fall. You learn from the mistake. You adjust, you sharpen, you rise again, because failure only has two possible outcomes. It builds you or it breaks you. And the choice, that's yours. You've been taught to believe that confidence means the absence of fear, that those who succeed are the ones who feel nothing, who walk through fire without flinching, who never hesitate, never doubt, never question themselves. But that's a myth. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to move with it. The most powerful people you know, the ones who command rooms, dominate their fields, and defy every obstacle in their path, they are not fearless. They just know how to control the chaos inside them. Because fear will never disappear, doubt will never go silent, the unknown will always exist. The question is, do you let it stop you, or do you learn to dance with it? This is the art of controlled chaos. It's the ability to stand in the storm and not let it shake you. The ability to feel the fear and keep moving anyway. The ability to understand that life is messy, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and still thrive in the middle of it. You think success comes to those who wait for the perfect moment? No. Success belongs to those who know there is no perfect moment. To those who take action while their hands are still shaking. To those who push forward despite the noise in their head telling them to turn back. Because success isn't about being fearless, it's about becoming ruthlessly unstoppable. It's about training yourself to thrive in discomfort. To stop waiting for clarity, for certainty, for an easy path. To stop thinking that you need to feel ready before you begin. The truth is, you will never feel ready. The fear will always be there. The self-doubt will always whisper in the background, but you move anyway. You step forward into the unknown, not because it's safe, not because it's easy, but because standing still is no longer an option. That's what separates those who wish from those who win. Those who succeed are not the ones who never feel fear. They are the ones who have mastered the art of moving forward with it. And now, so will you. The only way out of fear is through it. There is no shortcut, no detour, no path around it. Fear will never disappear just because you hope for it to. The only way to conquer it is to face it head on, to step into the very thing that terrifies you, that makes your heart race and your palms sweat. This is where transformation begins. It's easy to stand still. It's easy to wait for the perfect conditions, for the moment when the fear subsides, for the day when you feel completely ready. But that moment will never come. And while you wait, time moves, opportunities fade, and fear becomes a prison holding you captive in a life that's smaller than you deserve. The truth is, the only way forward is through the fear. So what are you waiting for? When your voice shakes and your mind screams for you to be quiet, speak anyway. Speak even when you feel like you don't have the answers, even when you're uncertain, even when your legs feel weak beneath you. The greatest moments of growth come when you step outside your comfort zone, when you act even when you don't have all the answers, and you don't need them. When your heart pounds in your chest and the fear seems overwhelming, move anyway. Take that first step no matter how shaky. Move in spite of the doubt. Move in spite of the fear. Because every step you take, even the ones that feel clumsy and uncertain, breaks the chains that have kept you stagnant. This is how you become unbreakable. Every time you step forward into the unknown, you strip fear of its power over you. Every time you push yourself to speak when you want to stay silent, to move when you feel like standing still, you show the world, and yourself, that you are unshakable. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to act. And in the process, you will find the strength you never knew you had. The first leap is always the hardest. It's the moment when everything feels uncertain, when the risk feels too great, when the fear is too loud to ignore. But the moment you take that first step, something changes. You become someone who moves in the face of fear. You become someone who chooses action over hesitation, courage over comfort, growth over stagnation. And that is how you become unbreakable. The more you do it, the easier it gets. The more you move in the face of fear, the more you become immune to its paralyzing effect. It no longer controls you. It no longer dictates your decisions. Fear becomes your fuel, your fire, your greatest ally in the pursuit of greatness. You have everything you need inside you to take that first leap. The only question is, will you? You are no longer its prisoner. The chains that once held you down, the fear that whispered in your ear and kept you stagnant are no longer your reality. Fear no longer has control over you because you have taken back the power it once stole from you. You have fought through it, stood in the fire, and emerged stronger, more powerful, more unstoppable than you ever thought possible. For too long, fear dictated your choices. It told you when to act and when to stay still, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to move forward and when to retreat. It told you that you weren't strong enough, capable enough, or worthy enough to go after what you truly wanted. But now you dictate your own future. Fear may have once been your cage, but it is now the fire that forges your strength. You have walked through it, felt its heat, and used it to shape yourself into something unbreakable. You have shed the illusion that fear could stop you, and in its place, you have built something greater. An unshakable will, a heart that moves forward regardless of the obstacles. You know now that fear is not an enemy to be feared. It is a challenge to be conquered, and you have conquered it. There was a time when you doubted yourself, when you hesitated, when you let fear decide your fate, but that was before you realized the truth. Fear does not control you. You control it. Every time you faced it, every time you stepped forward despite the trembling, despite the voice telling you to turn back, you broke the chains that once bound you. Every time you felt fear and chose to move anyway, you sent a message to your mind, to your body, to the universe. I am no longer afraid. The fire you walked through didn't consume you, it refined you. Every trial, every moment of doubt, every failure was a necessary part of the process. And now you stand on the other side, stronger, wiser, more aware of your own power than ever before. You have proven to yourself what others doubted. You have stood in the fire and emerged not just unscathed, but more resilient than ever. Fear no longer has a hold on you. You are its master. And this is just the beginning. Because the moment you realize that fear cannot control you is the moment you become truly unstoppable. Power isn't being the loudest in the room. It's not about dominating the conversation, forcing your presence on others, or demanding attention. Power is not the result of how many people notice you, how many accolades you collect, or how much you can force your will onto the world. True power is far quieter, far more profound. It's knowing that you don't have to shout to be heard. You've been conditioned to believe that power comes from outward displays, from visible strength, from taking up space and making sure the world knows who you are. But real power, true power, comes from an internal knowing. It comes from the certainty in your own worth, the conviction in your decisions, and the quiet confidence that doesn't need external validation. It is the calm that surrounds you when others are rattled, the strength that stands firm when others crumble, the ability to act decisively without needing to explain yourself to anyone. Now, fear bows before you. The same fear that once paralyzed you, that once dictated your every move, is no longer a force that controls you. You have stood face to face with it, and instead of shrinking, you have dominated it. Fear no longer has the power to silence you, to stop you, or to keep you from moving forward. It can't dictate your actions because you have learned that power is not about domination, it's about control. The control you have over yourself. You have learned that power doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be seen. It doesn't need to prove itself through force. True power is silent strength, the kind that emerges when you are grounded in your purpose, your vision, and your own capabilities. Now, when fear appears, it doesn't shake you. It doesn't derail you. It bows before you. Because fear understands something that the world has yet to fully realize. You have mastered it. This is where the shift happens. When you stop chasing validation, when you stop trying to prove your worth to anyone, when you stop letting fear dictate your next move, That's when the true power within you awakens. You are no longer chasing after power. You are now the embodiment of it. You move with purpose, you speak with conviction, and you walk with the quiet certainty that nothing and no one can take away your strength. This is how you redefine power. It's not about how loud you can be. It's about how unwavering, how steady, how unstoppable you become when you no longer fear what the world may think. Fear bows before you now. They thought you were afraid. They saw the hesitation in your eyes, the moments of doubt, the fear that flickered across your face when you stood at the edge of something greater. They watched you struggle, thinking that you would break, that you would crumble under the weight of your own insecurities. They thought the fear would consume you, that you would never have the strength to rise above it. But look at you now. Look at the person who stands before them, stronger, more confident, more unstoppable than they ever could have imagined. You are no longer the person who hesitated in fear, who backed away from challenges, who let doubt dictate your path. You are the person who faced everything that once terrified you and survived. You are the person who took the fear, turned it into fuel, and used it to propel yourself forward. They underestimated you. They thought they knew your limits, but they had no idea that your true strength was never in your ability to avoid fear. It was in your ability to face it, to walk through it, to rise in spite of it. The truth is, you were never meant to be weak. You were never meant to shrink, to stay silent, to remain invisible. You were born for something greater. You were always meant to be more than they thought you could be. Every setback you faced, every failure you endured, every moment of doubt you fought through, these were the moments that shaped you into the person standing here today. The person who has broken free from the chains of fear and emerged with a power and confidence that cannot be shaken. The new version of you is unrecognizable to them. Where they once saw weakness, you now stand tall with the knowledge that nothing can break you. Where they once saw fear, you now move with an unshakable resolve. You are not the same person you were before. You have been tested, tried, and transformed. And the transformation has made you unstoppable. This is not the end. This is only the beginning of who you are becoming. The fear they thought would hold you back has been burned away, and what remains is a version of you that is unbreakable. They thought you were afraid, they thought you would break, but now they see the truth. You are the force they never saw coming. You are the version of yourself that fear tried to keep hidden, but now nothing can stand in your way. Look at you now. You are not the person they thought you would be. You are the person who will change everything. This is the moment when everything changes, the moment when you no longer play by the rules that fear set for you, the moment when you stop being a prisoner to your doubts, your hesitations, your insecurities, and you step into the life you were always meant to live. This is the moment when you own your destiny. For too long, you have let fear control you. You have let it dictate your decisions, your actions, your very reality. You let it convince you that you weren't capable, that you couldn't rise above your circumstances, that you weren't worthy of more, but no more. This is the moment when you take control. This is when you step forward, not as a prisoner of fear, but as its master. You are no longer its captive. You are no longer shackled by the chains of your own doubt. You have seen what fear can do, and you've learned that it holds no true power over you. Now, you use it. Fear is no longer the force that stops you, it's the force that drives you. You know that fear is simply a signal, a sign that you are standing on the edge of something great. And instead of shrinking from it, you embrace it. You step into the fire with the certainty that you are meant for greatness. The world will never forget it. They will see you rise. They will see you break through the barriers that once held you back, and they will watch in awe as you own every moment, every opportunity, every part of your journey. They thought you were weak. They thought you would break. They thought fear would win, but they were wrong. Now, you are a force. You are someone who has stared fear in the face and decided not to retreat, but to conquer. You are the person who moved when everything inside you told you to stay still. You are the person who took risks when others played it safe. You are the person who turned every obstacle into a stepping stone. And the world will never forget it, because there is something undeniable about someone who owns their destiny. There is something magnetic, something unstoppable about someone who has taken control of their life, who has refused to let fear dictate their path, who has risen despite everything that tried to keep them down. This is your time. You step forward with the confidence that you are now the master of your own fate. The world may not have believed in you before, but now they will have no choice. They will watch as you create your reality, as you step into the life you were born to lead. You own your destiny, and nothing can ever take that from you. What you do next determines everything. This is the moment when the world will see that you are no longer the person who hesitates, who doubts, who waits for the right time. The next move you make will either set you on a path of greatness or keep you trapped in the life you've been desperately trying to escape. The decision is yours. You are no longer the person who hesitates at the edge. You are not the person who waits for approval, for permission, or for the conditions to be perfect. You don't stop, you don't hesitate, you act. Every step forward is a declaration that you are in charge of your life. Every choice you make now is a building block in the foundation of the future you are creating. The world will not wait for you to be ready. It will not wait for you to overcome every fear, every doubt, every hesitation. The world is moving, and you must move with it. Your next move will either be an act of empowerment or an act of surrender. Surrender. There is no middle ground. You cannot sit back and wait for opportunities to fall into your lap. You must create the opportunities. You must make the moves that shape your destiny. The world has seen your struggle. The world has seen you fight against yourself, fight against the fear that once held you back. But now, they will see you take your next step with unwavering certainty. You are not standing still anymore. You are taking action, and you are making your future a reality, and the world will notice. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer doubting. The mindset that once held you captive is now the mindset that propels you forward. Fear, doubt, and hesitation are no longer your reality. You have conquered your fear. The fear that once paralyzed you, that once kept you from taking risks and seizing opportunities, is now something you move with, something you use to fuel your growth, your drive, your relentless pursuit of success. It's not that fear is gone, it's that you have learned to coexist with it. You have learned that fear is simply a signal, that you are on the verge of something significant. It is not something to retreat from, but something to embrace. You are fearless because you understand that fear is not the enemy. Fear is your companion on the journey. It has no power over you unless you give it power. The moment you accept that fear is a natural part of the human experience, you stop letting it control you. You stop waiting for it to disappear before you act. Instead, you take action in spite of it. This is the fearless mindset. This is the state of mind that propels the world's most unstoppable people forward. This is the mindset that says, I will not stop until I've accomplished everything I've set out to do. You no longer second guess yourself. You don't question your worth or your ability to succeed. You are unshakable because you know that nothing, not even fear, can stop you from achieving what you set out to do. The world bends to those who refuse to break. It bends to the ones who walk through fire and keep moving forward. It bends to the ones who rise every time they fall, who fight every battle like it's their last, who refuse to settle for anything less than their greatness. And you have already won. The confidence you have today isn't the product of a perfect life, of unchallenged circumstances, of smooth sailing. It's the confidence born from the fire of your struggle, from the battles you fought against yourself, from the failures you turned into lessons. This confidence is unshakable because it is built on a foundation of truth, the truth that you have already overcome what you thought would break you. You have learned that confidence isn't arrogance. It isn't about boasting or looking down on others. True confidence comes from knowing your worth, from understanding that no matter what happens, you will rise. You will move forward. You will never be broken by anything life throws at you. The world sees your confidence and it bows before you. It knows that you are not here to play small. You are not here to wait your turn. You are here to claim what is yours. And nothing, not fear, not doubt, not failure, can take that from you. You are unshakable because you have already faced the storms, already walked through the fire, and you've emerged stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. They thought you were afraid. They saw your hesitation. They saw your doubts, your moments of uncertainty, and they thought you would break. They saw you struggle and believed that it would be the end of you. They saw your vulnerability and thought it was your weakness. But now they stand in your shadow because you are not afraid. You are not the person who hesitates, who second guesses, who holds back. You are the warrior who has faced everything that once threatened to break you, and you've come out stronger, more resilient, and more powerful than they ever imagined. Fear has become your weapon. It is no longer the thing that holds you back. It is the thing that drives you forward, that gives you strength, that fuels your fire. You use fear as a weapon to fuel your action, to push you beyond your limits, to make sure that you never stop, never slow down, never settle for anything less than your absolute best. And now, you are unstoppable. The world can try to break you, but it will never succeed. The obstacles can try to block your path, but they will never stop you. Because you have already proven that you are stronger than any fear, any setback, any challenge. You are the warrior who rises, who fights, and who conquers everything in their path. And now, the world will see you for what you truly are, unstoppable. They thought you were afraid. They thought you would break. But now, they will know the truth. You are not just strong, you are not just resilient, you are unstoppable. And there is nothing that can ever stand in your way again. Everything changes today. This is the moment you have been waiting for. This is the moment when all the struggles, the pain, the sacrifices, the lessons learned, they all come together. You are no longer the person you were yesterday. You are not the person who hesitated, who doubted, who played it safe. Today, you step into your power. There is no more hesitation. There is no more waiting for the right time. There is no more second guessing. The only thing left is action. The only thing left is the relentless pursuit of your destiny. You are stepping into the world as the warrior you were always meant to be. The warrior who has fought through the fire, who has faced the storms and the battles, and who has emerged stronger, smarter, and more unshakable than ever before. No longer will fear keep you from living the life you deserve. No longer will doubt hold you back from taking the steps that will change your life. The time for waiting is over. This is your moment. You are ready, you are prepared, you have done the work, you have made the choice, and now the world is waiting for you to step into it. Don't shrink back, don't play small. You have risen, and now you must rise even higher. The world will never forget your story. They will see you as the one who broke through every limitation, every obstacle, every barrier that stood in your way. You will be the example. You will be the proof that no one, no thing, no fear can stop you once you decide to rise. This is your journey. It begins now. This is not where you stop. This is where you start. You have faced your fears, and now you stand at the precipice of something even greater. The fear you once let control you is now your fuel. The fear you once ran from is now the very thing that will drive you to success. Fear is the beginning, not the end. Every time you've been afraid, you've grown. Every time you've hesitated, you've learned. Every time you thought you couldn't go on, you discovered just how strong you really are. And now, that strength will propel you forward. Now, fear no longer has the power to control you. It is simply a compass showing you where to go next. This is not the end of your journey. It is just the beginning. What you have accomplished, what you have overcome, what you have learned, none of it is the final destination. It is the foundation for what is to come. You were never afraid. You were simply waiting to rise, waiting for the moment when you would realize just how powerful, how capable, how unstoppable you truly are. And now, that moment has come. The world is waiting for you to step into it. The challenges, the obstacles, the opportunities, they are all waiting for you to seize them. And with every step you take from here, you will get closer to the life you were born to live. And now, the world is yours. There is nothing left to fear, nothing left to stop you. You are no longer the person who waits, who hesitates, who doubts. You are the person who moves relentlessly, fearlessly, unapologetically. This is your moment. This is your time. The world will never be the same once you claim it.